For many of us gamers, there's something special about the Souls-like genre. We're determined to overcome any obstacle the game throws our way, spending countless hours learning mechanics as well as enemy patterns. Enotria the Lost Song describes itself as a sunlit Souls-like based on Italian folklore. But how does it stand up to a FromSoft game? Stay tuned to find out. The game's story revolves around a script called the Enotria, written by superior beings known as the authors. Now, this is no ordinary script, as it actually narrates everything that will happen in the real world and can alter reality. The inhabitants of the world have been trapped behind masks and must play their eternal role exactly as the script suggests. You play the role of the maskless one, an individual that has no role in the script and the only person that can alter the Enotria's grip on the world. So, let's start off with how the game plays as well as the mechanics. Now, when you start off in the tutorial, the game throws a ton of pop-ups at you explaining the controls and mechanics. I'll go through them briefly to give you an idea of what to expect without going into too much detail. You've got your standard controls for attacking, dodging and parrying, but Enotria puts a far bigger emphasis on its parrying system, which was far more akin to Sekiro. When you successfully parry an enemy attack, you'll build up their unravel meter. When this is filled, they'll be stunned and you can deliver a finishing strike, which does a ton of damage. Playing as the maskless one, there are several masks that you'll need to obtain via killing enemies. Now, each mask has its own benefits. For example, the Guise of Zanni provides you with more health charges. Maybe you want more damage on your heavy attacks. No problem, just equip the Mask of Change. There are special abilities you can cast in the form of mask lines. Now, these are powerful attacks that you can use after you've built up some Ardor energy, which is the game's form of mana. Ardor energy is built up by attacking enemies and you can tell when they can be used as they'll glow gold. Enotria uses a perk system with which you can have 6 equipped at any time. The perk tree has 4 different branches, focusing on melee, weapon infusion and the mask line based abilities. Now, I thought the perk system was fantastic. You really can tailor a build based on your playstyle. I used a lot of the bruiser perks in conjunction, which focused on increasing my physical defense, improving my parry window, as well as enemies taking chip damage when attacking me. You can switch between 3 different builds on the fly, which is useful for reasons I'll explain a little later in the review. Enotria is formed up of 3 locations that you can explore. You'll be fighting your way through enemies, engaging in boss battles, as well as carrying out some side quests. Each location is pretty big and they've not been bloated out with filler content. They're the perfect size in my opinion. There's also a fast travel system to get you around the map that bit quicker. For the first few hours of the game, the enemies do telegraph their attacks to get the player accustomed to the parry and dodge mechanics. There are some slightly tougher enemies with bars above their head displaying their weaknesses. Now, there are 4 elements in the game that you can infuse your weapon with to do increased damage to the enemies. It's always on display in the top left of your screen, and I mentioned earlier you can switch between your builds in combat to give you an advantage. Also, you don't have much health at the start, and just one error will send you back to a bonfire. Oh, did I say bonfire? Excuse me, I meant reality knots. At each knot you can customize your builds, fast travel, as well as level up your player. There are 5 skills that can be increased focusing on your health, attack power, defenses and more. Memoria is the currency used to level up your stats, which is rewarded by killing enemies. I strongly recommend leveling up your hit points as much as possible, as mine's at level 46 and I still haven't reached a soft cap. We've got to speak about one of the most important aspects of a Souls-like, and I can delay it no longer. That's right, the boss battles. The first boss that you tackle is extremely janky and all over the place. So this guy covers up a lot of your screen whilst you're fighting, making it hard to tell what's going on. Whenever he turned to attack me, the animation would skip some frames, making it look really bad. The boss wasn't difficult, but it's hard to tell what actions you need to perform when the boss gives you janky animations. This boss decided to glitch out in the middle of the fight, taking no damage and being locked in position. I had to quit out of the game, and when I loaded back in, I was stuck in the boss room, unable to leave, and I had to use an item to return back to the reality knot. This mini boss got stuck in the environment and couldn't hit me, but I could hit him. Lads, when life hands you lemons, make some lemonade. I wasn't going to pass on cheesing the ever-living tits out of this guy, so I did. The only reason I didn't reset this boss fight was because I got glitched in a platform just before this fight and was getting slightly frustrated. When the game cheeses you, cheese it right back, lads. There's no shame. Now, I know I've spent a minute showing you some of the issues with boss battles, but this really is overshadowed by the brilliance of the rest of them. Yes, there are a few bad eggs, but the majority of them give you that Dark Souls level of satisfaction after you've killed them. When you've got your ass kicked a few times, it always feels great when you finally learn the boss's patterns, you're parrying every single melee and range attack and punishing the boss's every mistake. Now look, you're going to die several times in Enotria. There are some fights that are extremely unforgiving, but with a tweak of your build and practice, there's no boss that can't be overcome. Also, I just want to add, I'm no saint, guys. I was absolutely raging at my monitor at points, and I know my neighbours could hear what I was saying. You will get tilted playing Enotria, so it may be worth putting some earmuffs on your wife and kids, lads. If I had a swear jar for the number of times profanity was used, I'd be able to pre-order the new Dragon Age. Just kidding, no one wants that piece of shit. But Enotria isn't just about boss battles, lads, there's more to it than just that. I mentioned earlier there are 3 locations that you'll be exploring in the game world. The first of which is Quinta, a sun-rich city right on the verge of the sea. Here you'll see warmer colour palettes of the game with your yellows, reds contrasted by the light blues from the sea. There's Felicia Magna, which is a tropical island. Those warm colours are dropped in the favour of light blues, shipwrecks and white sandy beaches. And finally there's Litumnia, which is a far darker location and gives more of a sinister tone. Darker blues, reds and blacks are used here to illustrate that exact point. Each location truly feels unique and clearly a lot of work went into them. Apart from some pop-in issues here and there and glitched textures, the developers really nailed the look and feeling of the game world. It's also worth noting that there are several hidden paths and elevation points that you can reach, so I advise taking your time and exploring each area. There will always be some form of loot chest or a mini boss that will drop some good loot. Now I know the golden question you've all been waiting for me to answer, baby, and yes, you can run past the enemies. They act similar to enemies in Dark Souls, where there's a radius they can extend to before they have to start backtracking. But there is one small caveat. If you run past enemies that use ranged attacks, they can shoot you whilst you're fighting a mini boss. Here you can see this guy's boyfriend shooting me from the roof, which I did not appreciate. And whilst we're on the subject of enemies, let's talk about the tools used to slay them. You know, the weapons. There are over 100 weapons in the game and 7 weapon classes, including greatswords, hammers and polearms. Now I thought the polearms were the best weapons in the game. Their heavy attacks have so much range with its circular double sweep. You can pretty much zone enemies from a distance, as you can bait enemies into running towards you and spamming them with R2s. Most weapons are also imbued with one of the 4 types of elemental damage, and when you combine these with some of the perks, you can output some great DPS. Enemies have no troubles interrupting your attacks though, and this really did annoy me throughout the game. You see, I don't mind if my startup animation gets interrupted, that is fair play, but when I'm just about to land my attack to then get knocked out of my animation, that pisses me off. There's also a perk called Greater Inner Might which gives you super armor when casting a mask line ability. This is pretty much mandatory, equip it and don't take it off. The controller feedback also needs some improvement. When you attack an enemy, there was no controller vibration, so it made the attack seem a bit floaty as if you're not doing any damage. But it's strange because when an enemy attacks you, you do get controller vibration. So that's definitely something that needs to be looked into. As good as some of the game locations look, this is hampered by the low frame rate. I played this game with the graphics option enabled as well as turning off motion blur, and it still didn't look great. I'm not sure if the devs can fix this issue, but this is definitely a big one to look into. I will credit the game's voice acting as well as the background music, as these were both excellent. Honestly, the audio team and vocalists can hold their heads up high. Great job, guys.
Have you come to join us? It's a great festival we have here.
One of the game's trophies didn't pop for me despite me doing exactly what it says to do. I couldn't complete a side quest as the NPC was asking me to kill a boss that I'd already killed. And there's currently a bug if you've played the game's demo. The devs actually had to put a warning at the top of their store page warning players about this exact bug. Once you've unmasked the final boss and completed the game, you're given the option of continuing on to New Game Plus. This is entirely optional, you can carry on playing through your current journey. If you change your mind, New Game Plus can be accessed at a reality not at any time with all of your equipment carrying over. Enotria provided me 19 hours of gameplay, baby, and your playtime may vary depending on your skill level as well as how much you like to explore. Now I paid $50 or £37 for the game and I am happy with the price point. Considering you have access to New Game Plus, there's plenty of value in the game's pricing, which is backed up by the amount of base content within the game. Before I give my verdict on Enotria, let's take a look at what some of the critics had to say. OpenCritic scored the game as fair with an average score of 68%. Metacritic scored the game as 70 with 21 users leaving a review, and Steam lists the game as mixed with 573 players leaving a review. Enotria is a good Souls-like compounded by several technical issues and bugs that weigh it down. For me, the fun did outweigh the bugs, but they simply cannot be ignored. All of the critic scores are accurate, and I want to give the game a 7, but it would be disingenuous due to the bugs. I'm giving Enotria a 6.5 for the time being. If at any point a patch is released that fixes these multiple issues, I'm happy to adjust my score, as I did enjoy the game. If you can look past some of these bugs, then I do recommend picking the game up. Otherwise, I'd wait for some patches before you make a purchase. Ladies and gents, subs and non-subs, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, you know what to do. You've heard it all a million times. All of my socials can be found in my description. And remember, I'll never be a real YouTuber until I've released an apology video. Or 2. That's all, guys. Peace out. Where's your boyfriend now, bitch? Shooting at me from the goddamn roof.